Hello everyone, today I'm going to show you how to grow beans in a glass jar using just kitchen roll and some water and obviously some beans. Now this video is especially for children in year 1, so in hedgehogs, koalas and otters classes, because this week we are thinking all about vegetables, but if you're not in year 1 that's fine, you could have a go at this experiment yourself as well. Now I'm using runner beans. I'll just hold one up a little bit closer to the camera for you to see. I really like the speckled pattern on these. They're really beautiful. But if you don't have runner beans, that's fine. You can use any type of bean. And if you don't have any beans at all, then don't worry. I'm going to show you an update every week so that you can see how mine are growing. So you could still fill in your bean diary at home. Okay, the first thing to do is take 2 pieces of kitchen roll, like this. And then just fold them along that dotted line and then fold them in half again and then roll it round so that you get a cylinder shape. You should be able to look straight through the middle, and then you pop that cylinder into your jar and then just let it open out a little bit so that it's touching the sides of the glass. There we go. And that's what's going to keep your beans in place. So just to make it a bit more secure, I'm going to take another piece of kitchen roll and just scrunch it up and pop it in the middle. And I think I'll do another one as well. There we go. Okay, then I'm going to add some water. So I'll pour that into the middle. We don't need lots of water in there, but we want all of the kitchen roll to soak up the water and be damp all the way up. Just put a tiny bit more in. There we go. I don't know if you can see that, but the moisture is travelling all the way up the kitchen roll as it soaks up. The kitchen roll is absorbing the water. So we're ready to put our beans in. So we're going to pop those in between the kitchen roll and the glass jar. I'll try and do it upside down so that you can see. There we go. So there's one. Let's see if I can put it that way. I'm trying to put them standing on end long ways. There we go. You might notice they've got this little bit in the middle. It almost looks like a little belly button or something there. We'll see a bit more about that next week. That one there. And then there's room for one more here. There we go. So every couple of days, you just need to add a bit more water just to make sure that the tissue paper is always moist. And then you just need to watch and see what happens. And you can fill in your bean diary with week 1 next week, but as I say, I'll show you mine again. So if you don't have your own beans, you can watch to see what happens with mine. There we go. Okay, right, I'll see you next week to see how the beans are growing. Okay, bye. Hello again. Now I know I've just said goodbye on the previous video, but then I realised it might be useful to just explain a little bit about how to fill in your bean diary if you've managed to print one out. So I'll just talk you through that as well, just to help. Now my printer is being a bit strange and it's printed it out half size, so it's quite small. I'm not sure how your printer's cooperating with you. Mine's also just printed out single-sided. So what I've done, I'll just show you. I've just put the pages back to back. So on one page I've got my diary of a bean plant, and then on the other side, equipment, and then it says what do plants need, things plants need to grow. And so I'm just going to, with a bit of glue, just very quickly glue those pages together. I'll just do it really speedily here to show you. Okay, so that's my first bit. I've just done very quickly. Then the next set of pages, on one side you should have instructions and on the other side my bean plant week 1. So again, if you just glue those really quickly together, it's just a bit easier, otherwise you can get into a tangle. So there we go, that's the next bit. And then the last 2, you should have week 2, 3, 4 and 5 again on the back. So if you just glue those together, it makes it a bit easier. Okay. Right. So now you should have your diary. So I've written on the front of mine, by Mrs. Hunt. You could put your name. And then this is where I realised also there might be some confusion. Where it says equipment, I've drawn the equipment I used to do the beans in a jar. So I've got my kitchen roll, a jug of water, my glass jar and my packet of beans there. Now, you might have noticed that later on in the book, where it talks about instructions, it's actually got some pictures for you to cut out for the instructions. And those instructions are to plant your bean with soil. Now you could, if you've got beans at home, you could plant them with some compost and with a pot like that. But if you decide to do it the way I've shown you in a glass jar, then instead of cutting out the instructions pictures, you can just draw your instructions like I've done. So I've drawn a very quick picture for each one, and I've just numbered them and written an instruction. So I've put number 1, put kitchen roll into the jar. Number 2, pour in some water. Number 3, put in the beans. Number 4, add water every few days. That's what I've done for my one. And then the last bit for this week is week 1. My very speedy picture here is of the jar with the kitchen roll in and the beans. And then it says my bean is centimetres tall. So this week, because nothing's happened yet, there's no plant coming off the bean, we're going to just put 0 because there's nothing really to measure. But hopefully next week we'll have a shoot to measure. Now in this space underneath, there's not really much to write this week, but you could perhaps describe the bean and what the bean's like. So if you've got any left, having put those in the jar, or if you could do this before you put them in the jar, you could look closely at the bean, maybe feel the bean. How is it? Is it squishy? Is it hard? What's that covering on the bean like? So you could describe what you can see. You could describe that funny little white bit we talked about as well. You could even say what you think might happen next week. And then next week we'll do week 2, then week 3, week 4, week 5. Now here comes those instructions pictures. If you'd wanted those, I should perhaps have said don't glue that one all the way. Don't know if I can pull mine off. So if you don't want to use those, as I don't want to use them, I'm going to actually trim that page off. But if you do want to use them, when you're doing that first gluing together bit, maybe don't glue that one on and you can cut them. If you have glued them on like I have, the best thing to do is don't cut along that dotty line, cut right along that black line there. You see, so you've still got a tiny bit of overlap. There we go. So it's still got just a little bit of something to fold round to hold its place in the book. Okay, so as I say, if you did want to do the instructions pictures instead of the diagrams that I've drawn, if you cut those out, the first one would be filling your pot with compost or soil, and the second one would be popping in your bean. Put in your bean. And the next one would be adding water. And the last one would be putting it on a sunny windowsill. Okay, so you can do it either way. I'm sorry, I didn't realise earlier, or I'd forgotten, that this one is doing it in soil, but I thought it would be quite good fun to do it in the jar, and then we can see exactly what's happening. So normally all this would be happening under the soil, but we can actually see if we do it this way. Okay, I hope you get on okay with your booklets. Don't worry, as with mine, if your printer's not quite doing the right thing, even if you can't print it at all, you could just use folded over paper. You could do yourself a front cover, put your name on it. You could write and draw what we've used and some instructions, and then what you've seen in week 1, and that will be absolutely fine. Okay, and I might colour that in later just to make it look a bit nicer, ready for next time. Okay, happy planting, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.